James Comer, someone asked me on the IMs if I thought that impeachment is going to help Biden like it helped Clinton. And I think there are other headwinds that Biden has that we may not see it help as much. But I still contend it's not going to hurt Biden. I think the idea is to try and diminish how much Trump's impeachment hurt him. I mean, the idea is to make it so that you have people go to the polls and say there's no difference between the two of them. They're both corrupt. They both got impeached. I mean, I think that's the theory. Certainly, Trump feels like the more politicized impeachment can become, the less any given impeachment means anything. And that's the theory. And I think the James Comer's latest tour really is indicative of this. Because if you were really impeaching about something, you would spend your tour just providing that evidence. Or in fact, if you knew that impeachment was imminent, you wouldn't necessarily have to go out on tour and justify the imminence of it. Your evidence would do it. And yet, he's on there complaining, in this instance, on Newsmax, that Fox News is not towing the line enough, and so he's not going to go back on it. I mean, this is sort of fascinating. I'm just trying to think of, like, I don't know, some politician coming on this show and saying, I'm not going on MSNBC anymore because I found that, Rachel Maddow was very skeptical about my claims. They're not even really like this is about Steve Doocy, for God's sakes. If Steve Doocy is pulling you apart, you know you got a problem. Here is James Comer.
Forget the Democrats like Dan Goldman who say there's no evidence. My concern is when the media, and especially the conservative media, starts siding with the Bidens. Listen to Steve Doocy over at Fox saying you don't have evidence. Listen.
If they have the stuff. I mean, the Republicans
right.
At this point don't have, they've got a lot of ledgers and spreadsheets, but they have not connected the dots. They've connected the dots, the Department of Justice did, on Hunter, but they have not shown where Joe Biden, did anything illegally.
Now, Chairman, school Doocy on how this works. The way to connect the dots is by gathering all the information and then you connect them. So go ahead.
Pause it for something. Just think about this is like real rear guard work, right?
You're losing if you have to do this.
I mean, this is, if you're having to go on, and I got news for you, like, Comer's not surprised by this question. I can tell you that right now. This is not like, whoa, I had no idea we were going to be talking about Steve Doocy. This is, hey, will you please try and discipline Steve Doocy? That's what's going on here. This is a threat to Fox News. You're not going to get access to all the great stories I have, me, James Comer, if you don't tell Doocy to back off. Really, this should be framed like, if you can't even convince Doocy, how can you pretend this is real? But all right, continue.
Chairman, school Doocy on how this works. The way to connect the dots is by gathering all the information and then you connect them. So go ahead.
Well, I think we've done a pretty good job connecting the dots. We've traced 2 checks from influence peddling schemes going directly into Joe Biden's pocket. We traced the fact that one of these checks that went into Joe Biden's back pocket was a $40,000 check that came from China that just happened to be part of a $400,000 check to the company that Joe Biden was supposed to be 10% owner of, the big guy.
Pause it. Wait a second. Keep that up there. I'm just trying to look at this. Sarah and James Biden Sr. What's underneath there? Agents of China? He loaned his brother $200,000 and his brother paid him back. He had exactly zero profit associated in that, but we've already heard James Comer go like, well, but the fact that he got it paid back.
The memo reading Manchurian candidate.
Well, the memo, it's still a loan repayment.
That is, yeah, that, you know what that means in Mandarin.
Lo and behold, that 40,000 ended up being 10%. But at the end of the day, with any investigation, it concludes with depositions. And we certainly are going to give the president's son an opportunity to tell us whether or not our dots are connected correctly. I believe they are. We've had some financial experts come in, and it's going to be hard to answer some of these questions about these massive wires coming from our enemies around the world and how they laundered them through the various shelters.
Listen, I agree with you. You've been on here a lot, and we do. We're waiting for, you need to hear these people trying to connect it. They're trying to excuse themselves or prove their innocence. Why would Ducey say, if all the work you've done, that you have nothing? Why do you think that is?
Pause it for 1 second. What I actually thought, what's his face here? Boiling was going to say, he was fired from Fox News. What I thought he was going to say, why don't you have them do this in public? You're just telling me you got them, nailed dead to rights. Wouldn't that be great to do it in public on TV? Nope, he's asking again. We're going like 3 deep into why Steve Ducey is skeptical. This is fascinating.
I always love the connect the dots thing too. Like connect the dots, of course. Children's puzzles that make crude line drawings. Like I don't know if it's a really good metaphor for like doing official investigations.
When you're starting the impeachment, the dots should already be connected.
Right.
Right? I mean, that's the whole point.
Yeah.
Impeachment is you're supposed to have it's like it works like a grand jury. You're supposed to have all the evidence that's already there, and then you decide, is this enough to indict?
No.
But they've yet to actually. They keep vacillating between we've got the goods on them. We just need to go forward to see if we've got the goods on them. Out on the campaign trail. Go back a little bit.
Excuse themselves or prove their innocence. Why would Ducey say, if all the work you've done, that you have nothing? Why do you think that is?
Well, he's had that position from the very beginning. I've quit going on Fox and Friends because of Ducey. He's the one guy on Fox that's been very critical of the investigation. I have my theory why. We'll talk about that at a later point. But at the end of the day, he's entitled to his opinion. But I don't think the average viewer of Fox News agrees with Ducey one bit. I mean, the American people, even 40% of the Democrats, are concerned that Joe Biden has violated the law with his family's shady business schemes. And the American people expect somebody to investigate the President of the United States for public corruption. And thank God where the Oversight Committee is.
I'm so glad you said that, 400,000. Yeah, you want to talk about dots, Ducey? Here. Hunter gets 400,000. Hunter and the associates get 400,000. Joe Biden gets a check for 40,000. That's 10%. My man, we've heard of 10%, Mr. 10%, and they've been saying there's no dots to be connected. Chairman James Comer, if he doesn't show up, he'll be held in contempt. We'll get you back and talk about what the next steps are. Chairman.
Somebody's better be out there and getting to Ducey and finding out if he doesn't see that 40 is 10% of 400.
I wonder what dirt he has on Ducey.
Well, I think Bowling clearly had a problem with Ducey at Fox, and this is payback time. Meanwhile, Comer, what's amazing about Comer is he has his own backdrop that he has in his office. And we used to do this for the Majority Report. We used to have a paper backdrop. You drop it down. But it's not. It's all just Comer. It's not like the Oversight Committee. It's not impeachment. It's just Comer. It's like it's such a personal brand.
And so this was from Monday, this one with Newsmax's Rob Finnerty, reacting to the Jake Tapper interview that we discussed yesterday.
Yeah.
Wake Up America, I'm Rob Finnerty. So Hunter Biden indicted on 9 new tax charges in California on Friday, including 3 felonies. But the big question today is, does Hunter show up to testify on Wednesday after being subpoenaed by the House Oversight Committee? Joining us now for more is the man who issued that subpoena. Oversight Committee Chairman, Kentucky Congressman James Comer is with us. Congressman, great to have you on. Appreciate you being with us on a Monday. It's going to be a big week. You were on CNN Friday night with Jake Tapper. I happened to catch this live, and I get it. You've got to go on places like CNN, MSNBC. Otherwise, the other half of America doesn't hear about any of this. But I want you to take a look at how they're trying to portray you and then spin your investigation. Take a look.
We think that this is just the tip of the iceberg. We think there are many more crimes. And my concern is that Weiss may have indicted Hunter Biden to protect him from having to be deposed.
Yes.
in the House Oversight Committee on Wednesday.
He indicted him to protect him. Yes. The classic rubric. He indicted him to protect him. I got it.
So, Congressman, you weren't able to see Tapper during that interview, right? You're just hearing him in your ear? Okay. You see what happened there? He's making your investigation sound like a joke, and he's trying to make you look like a joke. And then half of America sees that, and they think your investigation is a joke. Yeah. How do you work around that? How do you work through that?
Well, that's the first time I went on CNN in 3 months. We thought we would give it a try. You know, Jake Tapper is an intelligent guy, but he's playing to a low IQ audience. You know, CNN just is hemorrhaging viewers every day. And Jake's doing what he's told by his bosses at CNN, who are doing what they're told by their bosses at the Democrat National Committee. I mean, CNN is a wholly owned, unprofitable subsidiary of the Democrat National Committee.
I mean, this is fascinating that that the strategy is, well, I guess what it basically does, it just tells you exactly what the strategy is. This is not for the public at large. When you go on and say, I'm here to convince the I'm doing this for the American public, but half of them are just low IQ and they'll never get it. They're stupid and they'll never get it. I'm doing this for the American public. It is clear that the strategy behind impeachment. Remember, this is ostensibly not a political campaign. You know, this is impeachment, and regardless of whether you thought that the Democrats should have impeached Donald Trump, I happen to think that they should have, and for actually more than they did. But you would be hard pressed to find a single Democrat who was not at least saying, like, we know how important this step is. We know how big of a deal it is. And it's important that we, provide this evidence to gain credibility with a huge part of the public that's not going to do. And he's there just basically saying, everybody who, all the news media is in the bag, including some at Fox News. It's fascinating. And I think, again, because they only are gearing this to their narrow constituency, and not that narrow. I mean, it's 40% probably of the population. It is, I think, going to help Biden politically. I don't know how much opportunity there is to help him, based upon all the other stuff that's going on with Biden. But this is certainly, I think, ultimately not going to hurt him.
But I also think it's interesting, the sort of like pantomiming of both the actual text of what they're talking about and then the subtext, because of Finnerty trying to confer legitimacy on Comer's inquiry while also being like, while they're on air being like, you gotta switch up the strategy because you're looking dumb. Like, he's not even disputing necessarily that Tapper was unsuccessful in making him look stupid. He was like, you kind of embarrassed yourself.
Oh yeah, he basically said half of the public thinks that your thing is a joke.
Like, there has to be, it's almost like you need to.
And Comer says, you're right, it was a mistake for me to go on there.
I shouldn't have done that.
Because the people on that audience are all dim-witted anyways.
I talked to News Nation about this.
I mean, it is a sort of it's just becoming it's totemic, and it is why this is going to be such a problem, not just for there is, I think, a potential upside for Biden here, but I really think it is a detriment to Republicans in New York and California, those 18 Republicans who are elected in Biden districts. I think that's where it's really going to hurt the Republicans more than anywhere else. I mean, you already have a couple of Republican senators who are scoffing at this. I mean, just outwardly scoffing at it, like the Murkowskis,
right.
The people. Now, Murkowski and Biden have a special relationship. Biden allowed for that the drilling that happened up there that Murkowski wanted, but she, I think, is indicative of a couple of the sort of like more bluey. Like I wouldn't want to be running in Pennsylvania and having to defend this. I wouldn't want to be running in Wisconsin or Michigan and having to defend this, or Arizona or having to defend this.
And it's a bad situation for vulnerable House Republicans too, because Jim McGovern pointed this out in the Rules Committee hearing yesterday, that Don Bacon said to the press, Don Bacon, Republican from Nebraska, who's in a Biden district, that like he doesn't believe yet that Biden has committed high crimes and misdemeanors, but is going to vote to open the inquiry. Like that's a contortion act that you're going to kind of have to play.
Well, ultimately, he's going to have to point to something new that is going to be revealed in this process. Right. And there isn't going to be anything new revealed.
And inevitably, as much as they say we're not going to vote for impeachment.
Oh, they have to.
They have to.
But that's my point.
Right.
If Don Bacon now says, I'm not going to, I'm not clear on what Biden, now he's going to play this game where it's like, I didn't understand that 40,000 was 10% of 400,000. That's pretty clearly, there's a relationship between that money.
Right.
One is 10% of another. And that's just too convenient, because you know that when Joe Biden is taking money from his son, they're only going to use round figures. I'm only doing 10%. Everything you're getting, Hunter, is a way to bribe me. But I'm only taking 10%. Not 11, not 9. Because that's not industry standard when you're trying to buy off a former vice president.
For the truck I bought.
It's as if it's like, this is the industry standard. 10%. That's what, you think that's just a coincidence?
No way.
Unbelievable.